Hello and welcome to FreeWaveTV. I'm Paige Friedman, bringing you the latest in maritime news from around the world. Today in maritime news, a cargo ship is reportedly the first to depart from Mariupol. 2 Asian carriers are accused of breaking the United States Shipping Act. The European Parliament supports the European Emissions Trading Scheme. The shipping industry looks for a solution to prevent containers from going overboard. The Ningbo Zhoushan port sets up services in Dubai. The Beibu Gulf Port Group launches new berths at a Chinese port. The Mediterranean Shipping Company launches new service. A new container ship is delivered to Evergreen. A cruise line is set to operate again after it shut down over bankruptcy. Russia's state-controlled TASS news agency reported that a foreign ship was the first to depart from Mariupol. The Turkish-owned cargo ship, the Azov Concord, left the port and made it to the Russian port of Novorossiysk. The ship was stuck in Mariupol since February when the invasion began. Russia has been trying to reopen the port since the siege of the city, and other vessels are also preparing to sail out of it. In the United States, a shipper from Illinois is accusing 2 Asian carriers of going against the Shipping Act. At the end of May, the country's maritime regulator concluded a 2-year investigation saying there wasn't any indication that global liners were colluding or gouging prices. A few days later, gourmet food producer MSRF issued a complaint with the Federal Maritime Commission against Yang Ming and HMM, alleging that they colluded, broken earlier agreed contracts, and manipulated prices. MSRF is looking to get millions of dollars for the high shipping costs it had to pay during the pandemic. The European Parliament has voted to support the European Emissions Trading Scheme with the significant inclusion of shipping. The Parliament voted for the shipping changes and also adopted positions on a carbon border tax and social climate fund, which are part of the Fit for 55 package, the European Union's plan to limit greenhouse gas emissions. The next step is for the proposals to be negotiated with member states. However, it might be a challenge as Europe deals with rising energy prices, high inflation, and the war in Ukraine. In the past 2 years, the shipping industry has seen more losses as the number of containers that have gone overboard has increased. Data from the 2020 to 2021 World Shipping Council's Lost at Sea report showed that less than 0.1% of containers were lost overboard. However, the losses overall have been trending downward, with the average number of containers lost at sea per year since the start of the survey increasing by 18% to 1,629. The World Shipping Council will now be conducting a survey to find out if there is a way to prevent these losses. The project will run over 3 years and will use scientific analyses, studies, and desktop, as well as real-life measurements and data collection to develop and publish specific actionable recommendations to reduce the risk of containers lost overboard. The Ningbo Zhoushan port is expanding in a new country. The Chinese port has set up a warehouse supply chain management company in Dubai, and it will serve as an entry point for Ningbo Zhoushan to further explore supply chain services in the country. The new company will develop overseas warehouse business in Jebel Ali Free Zone, a DP World-owned free trade zone, and will rely on the cooperation between the port and DP World. The Ningbo Zhoushan port will eventually extend logistics services to the entire Middle East region. Back in China, the Qinzhou port launched 2 automated container berths run by Beibu Gulf Port Group. The berths will officially begin operating at the end of this month, and they'll be expected to substantially improve handling capacity and the automation level of the port. The Mediterranean Shipping Company is launching a new trans-Pacific service called Zephyr that will connect Asia to the United States. The service needs regulatory approval, and if it receives it, the service will start on July 20th. The service will stop in Shanghai, Ningbo, Busan, Cristobal, Houston, Port Everglades, Savannah, Lazaro Cardenas, and then back to Shanghai. Yesterday, China's Hudong Zonghao Shipbuilding Company delivered the Everlot container ship to Evergreen. The 24,000 20-foot equivalent unit vessel is the world's largest container ship, as well as the shipyard's first container ship of that size. The Everlot is the first of a series of vessels to be built by the shipyard, and its sister ship, Ever Aria, is set to be delivered shortly. At the end of January, Crystal Cruises had to suspend operations after its parent company, Genting Hong Kong, filed for bankruptcy. Now the cruise line is set to restart operations under new ownership. Heritage Group, a private equity group with investments in the travel and tourism sector, announced yesterday that it had bought Crystal Cruises and the 2 Crystal ships that were up for auction in the Bahamas earlier in the month. The ships, the Crystal Serenity and Crystal Symphony, will undergo extensive refurbishment before resuming service under the revised Crystal Cruises brand in 2023. And now, here's the news making headlines around the world. Ukraine is expected to join the European Union, although today marks the first move in a year-long process. The unity acts as a signal to boost the country's morale as Russian assaults wear down the defenders of 2 cities in the eastern Donbass region, while also indicating to Russia that Ukraine and other countries from the former Soviet Union cannot belong to the Russian spheres of influence. Starting Sunday, the G7 will look to demonstrate their continued support of Ukraine during the conflict. At a luxurious hotel in the Bavarian Mountain Valley, during a 3-day summit, the leaders of the United States, Germany, France, Britain, Italy, Canada, and Japan will discuss how to apply more pressure on the Kremlin. In a world that seemed anything but just, justice is finally reeling its opposers in. Ukraine is set to have a preliminary hearing for its first trial of a Russian soldier getting charged with raping an Ukrainian woman during Russia's invasion, the first of what could be dozens of such cases. The Russian suspect, Mikhail Romanov, is not in custody and will be tried in absentia. He's being accused of murdering a civilian and repeatedly raping his wife in the Kyiv region on March 9th. A prosecutor working on the case told Reuters that up to 50 such crimes were being examined and that the number of sexual assaults committed by Russian forces since the initial invasion of Ukraine is sure to be much greater. After Russia continued to stall its gas supply to Germany, the European country has now triggered the alarm stage of its emergency gas plan. However, Germany refrained from allowing utility prices to soar for their everyday consumers. Their move was mostly symbolic, acting as an indicator to companies and households that painful cuts are on the way. However, the action also emphasizes a shift in Germany's relationship with Russia, which had developed close energy relations with Moscow during the Cold War. Aid began arriving on Thursday in a remote part of Afghanistan after a 6.1 earthquake struck early on Wednesday, approximately 100 miles southeast of Kabul, killing at least 1,000 people. Although aid is ready and present, poor communication and a lack of proper roads are deterring relief efforts in a country already grappling with a humanitarian crisis. Yesterday in China, the Meteorological Administration issued orange alert warnings for high temperatures in regions across the provinces of Shandong, Henan, and Hebei. Today, heat waves in northern and central China drove up electricity demand to record levels, while floodwaters in the south left villages submerged, trapping city residents. According to the state weather forecast, temperatures in the region are expected to hit above 40 degrees Celsius this week. As the world tackles natural disasters and conflicts between countries, the World Health Organization is set to decide whether to declare monkeypox a global health emergency or not, leading to criticism from many African scientists who say the virus has been a crisis in the region for years. Monkeypox does not spread as easily as COVID, and there are vaccines and treatments available, unlike the coronavirus when it emerged. However, there is still room for concern. The WHO will convene a closed meeting of experts at 12 p.m. in Geneva. It remains unclear when the decision will be announced. As we wait for a decision from the WHO, Bangladesh is preparing itself for the spread of waterborne diseases. An official said on Thursday that authorities were racing to get drinking water to those who are stranded in their homes due to flooding across nearly a quarter of the country. The Directorate General of Health Services said on Thursday that more than 4,000 people have contracted various waterborne illnesses so far, including diarrhea, in flood-hit districts. Acting as a helping hand, India is set to support a struggling Sri Lanka after the country's top diplomat held talks with Sri Lanka's president and prime minister. India has signaled its willingness to help beyond the $4 billion in loan swaps, and that it has already provided its harrowing neighbor. The countries are also talking about the potential of additional support, including a $500 million credit line for fuel and help with importing fertilizer and rice. In other news, Myanmar's deposed civilian leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, has been moved from house arrest in an undisclosed location in the capital to solitary confinement in a prison in the capital, Naypyidaw. The 77-year-old was arrested when the military overthrew her elected government in February 2021. Suu Kyi, who remains highly popular in the country, has already been sentenced to 11 years in jail. Suu Kyi and many members of her party are among more than 14,000 people who have been arrested due to opposing the military that overthrew her elected government. However, opposition to the military is widespread, and some parts of the country are engulfed in armed conflict. A top Nigerian senator and his wife were identified to have been the couple charged with conspiring to transport a child to the United Kingdom in order to harvest organs. Nigerians Ike Ekweremadu and Beatrice Nnoka Ekweremadu will appear at Uxbridge Magistrates Court later. A child of unknown age has been taken into care. In Africa, assaults in Western Sudan have displaced more than 84,000 people this month alone. Aid workers fear a displacement crisis akin to the one triggered by the conflict in Darfur in the early 2000s. Finance Minister and armed group leader Jibril Ibrahim said raising money to implement a peacekeeping force mandated by a 2020 peace agreement has been difficult. It seems as though conflict is constant, with the Human Rights Watch speaking out Wednesday, labeling Sudan's transitional government and military rulers failures in protecting their people. The Commonwealth, a club of 54 countries that evolved from the British Empire, had its leaders gather in Rwanda this week to discuss issues ranging from trade issues to health to climate change. The summit will indicate the relevance of the organization at a time when it's being questioned. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari attended the summit and called for the Commonwealth to act more as a bloc like the European Union. While countries such as India, Pakistan, Australia, and New Zealand seem to take the organization far less seriously after having sent ministers rather than their leaders, emphasizing its receding relevance. We're now going to take it over to Jean-Louis, who's going to share what's going on in the sports world.
It is June 23rd, 2022, and you're kicking it with Jean-Louis of FreeWaveTV. And from the States to across the pond, here are your sports stories of today. The PGA Tour has implemented a series of changes, including prize increases for the star golfers. Commissioner Jay Monahan mentioned that the top 125 players will earn their exempt status through a series of 6 fall events after the Tour Championships, as well as a debut of the Global Series with 3 events for the top 50. The news comes in a timely fashion as stars such as Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, and most recently Brooks Koepka left the tour, accepting lucrative offers from the LIV. Now, in the announcement, Monahan stated that the move will be set in 2023 with the hopes of maximizing their top premier events, responding to the current environment, ideally to the LIV that they are currently in. In a recent interview on MSNBC, Cherelle Griner, the wife of the detained star Brittany Griner, has asked Joe Biden to negotiate the star's release from the Russian government. The wife of the Mercury star stated a lack of communication with family and inconsistencies within the regime, stating to the press that they have done everything to bring her back to safety, but without much action, leading to zero trust from Griner for the government. It was reported that Wednesday, multiple organizations representing people of color, women, and LGBTQ voters each called Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris to act, including tweets and personal letters penned to them. Griner, who was detained back in February for accusations of an illegal substance in her luggage, was honored by the WNBA, being named an all-star starter in their upcoming game. 8 members of an Argentinian medical staff are to stand trial for their involvement for the death of Diego Maradona. The late football star passed away back in 2020 at the age of 60 due to a heart attack. However, a panel of experts examined foul play and health protocols leading to his death. They cited the medical team as acting in an inappropriate, deficient, and a reckless manner. Maradona was widely regarded as one of the GOATs in the sport, getting the honor alongside Pele as the joint winners for the FIFA Player of the Year for the 20th century. A date for the trial has yet to be set. Serena Williams' return run has hit a stopgap, as with an injury to her doubles partner Ons Jabeur, they withdrew from the doubles competition. The Tunisian injured her knee in their quarterfinal win, however, will miss tomorrow's semifinal matchup, taking the Dream Team out of commission in Eastbourne. Now on the flip side, Wimbledon is around the corner, and between the men and the women, all eyes are on the many stars that may contend for the crown. However, ahead of next week's draw, all eyes really look on the two tennis greats Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal, who each placed their names on the ballots and are anticipating another potential matchup between one another. Nadal last bested Djokovic en route to his 22nd Grand Slam win, bringing their matchup tally to 30-29, advantage Djokovic. Nadal, who looks for his first Grand Slam win in Wimbledon grass in over a decade, looks to also tie Djokovic in their all-time matchup. Will they meet? And if so, when? We'll find out next Monday, where the singles draw will commence. Stay tuned. In cricket, we're live with England and New Zealand, as England currently looking for that sweet series sweep. With Ben Stokes and company yet to bat, they are currently down 123-5 through the first inning. Stick with FreeWave for the updates. Now in the States, the Avalanche shocked the Lightning in Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Finals, beating the defending champs in OT 3-2 and taking hold of a 3-1 series lead heading back to Colorado. Game 5 is tomorrow at 8. And as for tonight on ESPN, beyond the ice and the mound is the NBA Draft. College prospects are looking to embark on their new journeys with their new teams, while the teams themselves are looking to shape their future for the better. Now, one team that is taking their future steps beforehand is the Portland Trail Blazers, who traded their 2025 first-round pick as well as 2 seconds for Pistons forward Jeremy Grant. The 28-year-old averaged over 19 points per game within the past 2 seasons, joining a team that is starred by NBA All-Star guard Damian Lillard and the presumptive 7th pick in tonight's draft. What's next for the draft and all the other 29 franchises at large? We shall see. Till then, as always, I'm Jean-Louis. This is FreeWave, and that's your news. Take care.
That's all we have for today. For more detailed news, you can visit our website, www.freewavetv.com. On behalf of all of us here at FreeWave TV, thanks for watching, and we'll see you our next newscast next week.